actually, this is pretty apropos. Every time I say the phrase, I'm going to ring the bell, I think of Leonard Cohen, this refrain. I can't remember the name of the song, but the refrain is, ring the bells, it still can ring, forget your perfect offering. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. So that's actually Kabbalah in Leonard Cohen's song, but I love it. So it's a good, maybe we can ring the bell on letting go of needing to be perfect. How about that? So here we go. So just as you're really, hopefully that sound of the bell is still in the background, invite yourself into the Tara aspect of you, the you that's already Tara, this fierce, loving, wise, compassionate part of you. And, just imagine that you're able to say to her, oh, I got this thing about being perfect. And imagine that she finds that humorous and actually endearing. And that she just invites you to relax. This is really the deep, wise aspect of yourself. And that she invites you to relax and feel the support of whatever you're sitting on or lying on, and that you don't have to hold yourself up. And also, even though we're not together in form in a particular place, we really are together in the vast space so that we can feel supported by each other. Yeah. So with that invitation from the Tara in you, to maybe just come back into this space together. And I want to start out by introducing Diana Garcia Londoño. She is our tech genius and host for the evening. And I'm so excited to have her here. I'm going to out her too. She's pretty darn funny. So anyway, I just want to say welcome to her. And so I'm so glad she's here. And she's got a little star by her name. Yeah, she's waving. So if there's anything you want to address to her directly, please feel free to do that. So we are here together tonight, and our focus is going to be on red hum sounding Tara. And one thing people ask me, I just, when you get so used to something, you just don't remember that everybody else is not used to it. But we're going through the mandala as it's explained in the book. So if you have the book, the next one, the fifth one is going to be the fifth chapter in the book. And somebody did actually write to me and ask me if I knew if there was some teaching behind the sequencing of the 21 Taras. And if there is, I don't know it. I don't think there is. I've never heard anybody give a teaching about why they come in the sequence that they come in. I do know that the 21 Taras are a part of all the different lineages of Tibet. So if you get the 21 praises from the different lineages, they're not all exactly the same, but they're remarkably consistent. And particularly, like even within the Gelugpa lineage, which this comes from, different teachers have different mantras. Even the same teachers, some of you learned from the initiation, will have a different mantra. at a different point. Maybe they're using a different text. But if you look through the praises from the Gelugpa tradition, whoever translated or wrote them, you'll see they're remarkably consistent. So we are on the fifth one, the red hum sounding Tara, and I hope you can see this. This is the syllable hum. And if you can see it, you also will notice that Tara's seed syllable, tom, is right inside that. The tom doesn't have that little tigle at the top, and the tom doesn't have that extra decoration at the bottom, but the syllable tom is inside the syllable hum. So, you know, when we do the visualization and it says that we imagine the syllable hum radiating from her heart, that's what it looks like. And I can tell you that if you Google it on the internet, you'll get something that will look just like this. So one of the things that, as we get to the different pieces of the practice, and Deanna has put the praise and the mantra in the chat box. And the praise is talking about that Tara fills the world of desire, the 10 directions, and space with the mantra Tutari and the syllable hum. And so basically what this praise is alluding to is all the different dimensions of consciousness. So the world of desire is sort of the subtle realm, the in-between realm, and we're in the realm of form, and then the world of vast space. So the praise is really saying that I'm praising Tara, who's filling all the realms with the mantra, Tutari, and the syllable hum. So when we get to the practice, I'm going to remind you of that because, yeah, one thing that I think is incredibly important right now is for us to really be able to imagine and work with, you know, it may seem strange to you because most of us as Westerners are not used to thinking about our ancestors. We're not used to thinking that we can do healing things for our ancestors and ask them for healing things. My sense is we definitely can. So tonight I'm going to invite you all to send the light and the mantra and the syllable. You know, we're going to imagine it's going into all the realms. And, you know, this could not be more important. I mean, actually it's important all the time, but especially now. As you know, we have lost more than 500,000 people to COVID. So there are many people who are, you know, going between realms right now. And we just had this terrible, terrible, terrible violent incident with all these people getting killed in Atlanta. And so the idea that we could imagine sending this mantra and this light into all the realms, to the people who have been killed recently, to all the people who have died, to the people who are involved in any of this, to their relatives and their families, that we can send this, you know, really actually to the whole Asian American community. You know, one thing to really remember is that Tara's, one of her main claims to fame, you know, all these Tibetan deities have a sort of central thing. And Tara, you know, she's karmic enlightened action, but she's also that she protects us from fear. And so these terrible, terrible incidents, you know, these violent incidents that, you know, just create so much fear. It's really wonderful to think about sending this protective energy out into the communities that are most affected by that. I mean, I think we're all affected by it, but still. So I wanted to mention that. I also want to say that, you know, with all these practices, when we get to the end and we do the dedication, we dedicate it towards the healing and awakening of all beings everywhere. You know, it doesn't matter which emanation of Tara we're focusing on. They all of them have at the center this, our wish, it's our aspiration that she would help all beings wake up and all beings experience healing. So it doesn't matter which emanation we're working with. that's at the center of everything. So with each one that we talk about, we can focus on certain aspects of that, particular aspects of that. And that's what we're getting ready to do shortly. But I do really like to recall always that all of Tara's emanations have to do with protecting us from danger and protecting us from fear. So maybe I will make a couple of announcements before I proceed. So here's where you all get to let me be less than perfect, because I sort of like to ramble. I think associatively. So, oh, I need to tell you this. So for people who did take the initiation, and I think you're in an email thread with Christina Lang, to remember that March 25th, which is a week from tonight at 7 p.m., we'll gather to share experiences and answer questions, and also find out which questions I can't answer and I can send you on. So I want to remind everybody that Rinpoche is giving the initiation again in April. It's April 23rd to the 25th. And if you, I think maybe Deanna or Karen, when she comes in, has the link to register for that initiation. So it's shorter. It's just the weekend. And the invitation is, to either go deeper if you want to take it again and hear more commentary. Yeah. So in the chat box, you can see the courses for deepening, but can be attended by beginners. So here's the link if you want to register. And I will tell you again, sometimes this website is a little tough. So if you have trouble with registering, just email stream@ganden.ch. and they can help you. You'll see the ganden.ch in here. So if you have trouble, just email stream@ganden.ch and they'll help you with the registration. So someone asked how to get added to that email list. And I think Christine is on this call. So Christine, if you don't mind putting your email in there she goes. There's the email you can send a note to her and you'll get added to the list. So anyway, I just want to make people aware that there is that opportunity if you want to take the initiation, and also the opportunity if you want to do it again and just go deeper into it and hear the teachings again directly from Rinpoche. The other thing I want to say, and I did not, maybe I'll put this in. Let's see. They have created, let's see, a specific email address just for questions about this initiation and about Tara. So I'm putting that in there. So that's going to be a good source for sending questions about the initiation to that email address. Okay. So one of the things that I have asked Deanna to do is put into the chat box several different poems. And the reason I want to put them in is actually mainly because they're seriously beautiful. And also because they're quite handy. So there's this one, it's called The Praise. Okay, well, let's just do them as she's putting in there. So I'm going to read this out loud. The human body at peace with itself is more precious than the rarest gem. Cherish your body, it is yours this one time only. The human form is one with difficulty. It is easy to lose. All worldly things are brief like lightning in the sky. Life, you must know, is the tiny splash of a raindrop, a thing of beauty that disappears even as it comes into being. Therefore, set your goal, make use of every day and night to achieve it. So this is by Jay Tsongkhapa, who is the founder of the Gelugpa lineage. I think he was somewhere in the 12th century, 13th century. Somebody may know that. I just love this poem. It's probably the only thing I really can say that I know from him, but it's as important as he is. But this first line, I think, is especially important to this particular Tara. The human body at peace with itself is more precious than the rarest gem. And so let's think about that line in relationship to this emanation of Tara. When you look at her description, it says she's somewhat wrathful, which I think of as, like a mother bear, or if you had some great teachers like I did in high school who knew what you were capable of doing and knew you weren't doing it, they could be a little stern. But it's even though it's slightly wrathful, it's extremely compassionate. And the strength of this red hum sounding Tara is the same as all the red ones, but this one in particular, I think, is so interesting. The color red in this system has to do with control, which really means containment. It doesn't mean controlling people or controlling things, or even really, trying to control yourself as much as it is trying to have a compassionate container for yourself. I mean, I'm sure some of you have heard this sort of famous Buddhist expression, don't express it and don't suppress it, meaning don't go ballistic, but also don't suppress what you're feeling. And so I think this Tara is really an invitation about that. So it's really that red color is an invitation to give us a sense of containment so that we can actually be aware of how we're feeling and then decide what we need to do in a given moment. Sometimes in a given moment, things can be pretty overwhelming. And one of the things you might need to do is step back. But this Tara would give you kind of the thought process to know I need to step back and to be able to do it in a really skillful way. So let me talk a minute about the mantra, and then I'm going to just come back and say more about what I'm talking about. So it's Om Tari Tutari Turi Amaka Akarshaya Hrisoha. So Amaka is kind of a general class of indirectly named people who are known to create obstacles. So, in this Tibetan world, that can be seen and unseen beings. And so in my mind, that can also be actual people in your environment that are known to create obstacles. If anybody's ever had a really difficult boss who's really not skillful at managing, or a really difficult parent, or in a difficult relationship, where really honestly, objectively speaking, most people would agree this is a tough person to have to, relate to. So it can be people and beings outside of us, but it can also be things that happen inside of us. So sometimes we need a boundary from something that's going on outside, but sometimes we need a boundary with something that's going on inside. And one of the things that I really think is important is, and I wrote about this in the book some, that, we can get triggered in a current moment by something. And our response to that trigger can be way more than the current moment. So we can feel like we're having an exaggerated response to something that's going on in the current moment, but we're still having it. It's really not any fun. Like some people talk about the fact that anger is, if you're angry, it's because of something that's going on now. If you're enraged, it's probably something coming from the past. So what I really know to be true is sometimes we get triggered and we're having a big response to something. Instead of being able to kind of go, oh, whoa, I get that, and then have a compassionate take on it for ourselves, we can sometimes get down on ourselves. We can either have the big response externally, or we can try to squash it internally. We're not very nice to ourselves. We're kind of self-critical. So that's what I call an internal obstacle. And so one of the things that we're asking Tara to do is really, again, help us create these kind of compassionate but holding boundaries. So something like that from the inside would be like, oh my gosh, I get it, man. I am really upset. And I kind of get it that I shouldn't be that upset about this thing that's happening right now. And at the same time, I'm not judging myself. It's like, okay, I must need something. I must need some care. So, what I like to think about is that, if we can remember to think of Tara in a given moment, and, yeah, it's great. If you can think of this particular mantra in a given moment, that's great. You can also use the main mantra of Tara, Om Tari Tutari Tur Soha, but you can be thinking about the qualities of this particular emanation. So you don't need to feel like, gosh, I can't remember that mantra, so I can't do it, But what this mantra, and when we get to reciting it, we're really asking her to help us influence and bring these outer or inner beings under our control. So I want to give you a couple of examples because people in my community have been doing these practices for quite a while. So I've had more than one person tell me that they were either in a meeting with a bunch of people or in an interaction. This is at work with one particular person, and things are really not going well at all. And I'm thinking this one particular person, and she would sit there and just begin reciting Tara's mantra to herself. Obviously she wasn't doing it out loud. She would really, really focus on the mantra, which, that mantra is really vibrating with this enlightened energy. And so the energy would settle her down, but then that energy starts emanating from her. And she said it has happened more than one time where everything in the room calmed down and things just sort of went a different way. So, I don't want to suggest that would happen, every single time, but I've seen it happen. I've done it myself. I've seen it happen. And especially if what you're really hoping for is a good outcome. So it's not control in the sense of, man, I want to get the outcome I want, but it is a sense of, I really want this thing to calm down here so that we can relate to each other differently and maybe have a good outcome. So, I think I've thought a lot about usually when we think about control in this, what I'm talking about, a lot of times we're talking about anger. I want to broaden that out a little bit because really difficult triggers can often trigger the fight, flight, freeze response. So the fight response is the anger piece. The flight response is to leave, but not skillfully, as opposed to getting it that you need a break and you need to step back, but you can say that in a good way. All right. So that's a skillful use of creating a boundary using Tara's energy. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is freeze. Because so often that's what happens to lots of folks when they get triggered. You just can't think straight and you get this real big contraction. And, sometimes you can notice one sensation ahead of the other one. You might notice, oh man, I'm getting tight and contracted, or you might notice, oh, I'm getting anxious. But I would like to say that you can become quite aware. You can learn a lot about yourself if you work with this kind of thing. That I will say for myself, I know when I am in the freeze response, one of the things that tells me I'm in it is that I start feeling like I'm alone. When I'm not in it, if I go outside and I'm seeing all these beautiful things in the natural world, I'm like, wow, look at that, look at that, look at that. And I really feel like even in the indigenous sense, that's one of my relatives, that tree, that flower, whatever. I feel really connected to it. But when I'm in that freeze contraction, I see the tree, but it's kind of, and I think the other thing is I lose my sense of humor. So, you all can probably know for yourself what your own signs are that you're shutting down. That's another way of putting it. But if you're shut down, you can't really look after yourself. And you can't really influence the situation you're in, whether it's an internal thing or an external thing. Another thing, because I think fear does tend to give us this exaggerated sense of being alone. We forget to ask for help. And, man, if there is anything that this Tara practice is designed to do, and I've said this before, and some of this stuff I'm just going to say again and again and again. There were no images in Buddhism until Prajnaparamita, the perfection of wisdom. That's another subject. And then Tara was one of the very first images to arise in this tantric form of Buddhism. And with Tara came the idea that you could ask for help. It's really the first time in the Buddhist tradition where the idea that you could ask for help actually arose. So, the topic of asking for help, man, that is a really big topic. So we're not going to, maybe we'll cover that in a different topic, a different Tara. But I really do want to say, in relationship to this red hum sounding Tara, who's giving us that control over this kind of bouncy energy, it's really useful to ask for her for help if you notice that you're shutting down. That's not the boundary you want. I mean, I think that's especially as children, sometimes we thought we were protecting ourselves, or we didn't think it, but that's what we did. But it's really not. It's truly not real protection. And what we're after here is real protection. So, I just want to kind of encourage you guys to play with this sort of thing, to play with these different ideas about how we're asking Tara for help with control of these beings that create obstacles in all these different ways, not just necessarily only in the situation of anger or sort of an inflamed emotion. I think the other thing is when we bring Tara into the situation, we're really bringing love. We're really bringing love into the situation. And so it can be kind of heart opening. And the important thing is we need to open our hearts to ourselves. It's going to be really hard to be open to anybody else if we're not open to ourselves. And I've actually have heard the Dalai Lama say this many years ago. The greatest possible protection we can ever have is compassion. That is actually the ultimate protection is compassion. And, I think you can imagine that without compassion for yourself, you don't have that kind of protection. Like, for instance, if you're in if you're in a situation where you feel like, man, I need to take a break here. I really need to leave. Well, if you're shut down, you're not going to be able to think about what you need for yourself because you won't have enough compassion for yourself. But if you can remember to call on Tara, and it's like, oh yeah, right. I need to generate this compassion for myself. Then that gives you the strength to really ask yourself, what do I need? And if you need to leave, you have the strength to do it. So that's, for me, is a good link between how compassion can help create boundaries. The other example I wanted to give about, especially this idea that, I just love this. This is not the only emanation of Tara where the Atisha, whoever wrote these practices so many hundreds of years ago, talks about Tara's light enchanting the others. Enchanting and overpowers, but the word enchant, I think, is really wonderful. So, for me, I think of that as if we are really able to sink into the embodiment of this Tara energy, it is so calming. It's so much more appealing, right? And so whether people know that that's what's happening or not, in fact, it's even better if they don't know what's happening. But I think the enchantment is that there's such a positive valence to this energy that people are attracted to it. And it becomes more attractive than the negative stuff. So, one example that I have of this, and this is many, many, many years ago, I was talking to this really good friend. It's very, very, very progressive Baptist minister, somewhat my elder. I just adore this man. And I was just going off on this feminist rant. And, obviously I felt real comfortable with him. So he was just sitting there. We were at this little sandwich shop. And I just noticed, he was kind of getting further back. And then I stopped and he leaned in just in his kindest way. He said, Rachel, I got to tell you something. He said, when you talk like that, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. He said, so, if you really want people to listen to what you're saying, especially if it's something you care a lot about, you can't go at it with that kind of energy. Because, ultimately, whether they want to or not, people are going to put up their defenses. So that was 25 years ago. I never forgot it. So as a Sagittarian, I have a tendency to get up on a soapbox and hold forth. So I have really tried to dial that down. So I think what this emanation of Tara is really inviting us to do is go inside to these really amazingly positive energies inside ourselves and get rooted and grounded in those energies, and then let that be the influence. And then whatever we say or speak to comes from that energetic standpoint. So I want to move my cat because he's sitting on the practice book. So if we look at the visualization, the praise for a minute again, that she is filling all these different worlds with the mantra Tutari and the syllable hum. And she has the power to influence all the worlds, all the different worlds, and to summon all the beings. And so I wanted to mention again, the meaning of Tutari has several different meanings, but one of the main meanings is that it is really the supreme joy. That's one translation. And it's the supreme joy that arises when you really get it to the core of your being, the level of interdependence and interconnection, the web of interdependence that we're really living in. And so it's almost like Tara is filling the entire universe with this joy of the knowledge of interdependence through this one word, tutare. So Deanna, if you would put the poem, the Chogsel Doma Tari Pema poem in the chat box. So this verse, okay, now here we're going to have a real exercise in imperfection because here we go. So I'm going to say it first. Chogsel Droma Tari Pemo Tutarai Chikun Selma Ture Dernan Tamche Terma Soha Yegi Chela Rabdu. So you look at the English, it's really, this is an homage to the mantra itself. So you can see that he's explaining, this is from Atisha, he's explaining the mantra in this praise. So he's praising Tara and the mantra at the same time. And you see in this verse, you free us from all dangers with the mantra of Tutari. So it's really referring to the same thing. So there is a teaching that these 4 lines actually are the equivalent of reciting the entire 21 praises to Tara. And so that's one of the reasons I wanted you to have it. You know, there's a story that Tara said in order to do something, I don't remember what it was, because he and Tara really had a thing for, decades. That Tara told him he needed to recite the 21 praises 10,000 times. So he said this 10,000 times. Okay. So here is the experiment in imperfection, because this actually has a nice tune that goes with it. I'm not all that keen on singing by myself, but I'm going to try and see if you can catch it. If anybody catches it and you feel brave, you can unmute and we can do it together. But it has a catchy little tune. And if you get it, it's pretty cool. You can be on your walk one day and you'll start singing this thing. Okay, here we go. Chogsel Doma Tare Pemo Tu Tarai Jikun Selma Ture Donam Tamche Terma Soha Yige Chela Rabdu. Anybody want to try it? Let's do it, okay? And it'll echo some, but that's okay. Chogsel Doma Tare Pemo Tu Tarai Jikun Selma Ture Donam Tamche Terma Soha Yige Chela Rabdu. Yeah. Okay, one more time. And see if you can hear it. I hope y'all can sort of take this away. Chogsel Doma Tare Pemo Tu Tarai Jikun Selma Ture Donam Tamche Terma Soha Yige Chela Rabdu. So I think it works. You can put your cursor over that poem and copy it and paste it somewhere in your computer. So it's the name of it is actually a praise composed by the master Atisha. So yeah, that's it. And I wanted to, there's some things that, like the poem by Jay Sankapa, there are just some things I want you all to have, and I want you to have them forever, so that you can refer back to them anytime. And yeah, one of the things that I really like for people to have is a sense of something that is really a small practice. Like you could be going through your day and you could sing that little verse, and that might be your praise. That might be your practice for the day. So I just like for people to have these Tara, these sort of sweet things of Tara that you can rely on and come back to. So there's that. And there is one last thing, and then I think we will actually, maybe I'll say one more thing or two about Tara, and then we'll do the practice. So this we're going to put in the chat box too, and it's called A Short Song of Praise to Tara. And again, it's by Atisha. And I'm not going to read the Tibetan for this, and hopefully y'all can copy it from the chat box. But I will just read the English to you. I bow down to you, O great compassionate mother. I bow down to you, mother of 1,000 eyes and arms. I bow down to you, Mother Tara, supreme among healers. I bow down to you, Mother Tara. You are the medicine that heals all ills. I bow down to you, Mother Tara, compassionate and skilled in all methods. So I'll just stop here for a minute. Deanna, do you have that one? Okay, maybe. I don't know if Karen has joined us yet, but she's got it. So when she comes in, we'll get her to put it in the chat box. So I will say, there's another verse I'm going to read, but here you, the mother of 1,000 eyes and arms, that's really a reference to Avalokiteshvara. And then I bow down to you, supreme among the healers, the medicine that heals all ills. So, many people also feel like that Tara is functions in a very similar way to the medicine Buddha. And I think that's those lines remind me of that. And then the second stanza is really connecting Tara to all the elements. I bow down to you, Mother Tara. You are the all-supporting earth. I bow down to you, Mother Tara. You are the cool water. I bow down to you, Mother Tara. You are the warm and ripening fire. I bow down to you, Mother Tara. You are the air where each thing grows. I bow down to you, Mother Tara. You are omnipresent like space. So we'll figure out how to get that into the chat box before we sign off for the night. But again, these are just a few things that I wanted you all to have. And I think that might be what I want to say about this Tara for now. And if there's anything I missed, I'll say it at the end. So let us take a moment, another moment, to settle in again, just kind of make that shift from the sense of we're really interacting with each other, and make that shift to letting the energy drop down inside of you, and to make yourself really comfortable, so that you actually do feel supported. Yeah. And as we're doing the practice, if something comes into your kind of heart space that you want to ask Tara for, be sure that you ask for it. Okay, so here we go. So we just take another moment to settle again. Really and truly, like that wonderful praise that I just read, connect with the earth element of Tara. I really feel that you're supported by whatever you're sitting on, because everything you're sitting on was made from something that comes from the earth. And the floor beneath your feet and the earth beneath your home to just let yourself settle into all the support that's here for us. And then to get in your mind's eye an image of space, and to pick whatever is the most beautiful image of space that you can think of, that's your most favorite image of space, that when you call it to mind, that you begin to feel spacious. Because that great infinite space is yet another image of your own enlightened consciousness. It's that vast, it's that open and free. And, one of the reasons we practice is to get rid of the obstacles that prevent us from feeling and being in contact with that. And so that's the first thing we do. We contact the earth, ground, and support, and then we contact space. And as you're breathing in and out of space, to feel the breath creating more space in your body, which also has actually an infinite amount of space in it. But really that you're tuning into the infinite possibilities of space, shunyata, it's always, always, always giving birth. And so what we're going to ask now, we're going to imagine space giving birth to right this minute, is the entire mandala of green Tara and all her 21 emanations. And so we just see that taking shape in front of us, maybe just a few feet in front of us, not that far away, really. And we see green Tara in the center. And if you need any help with that, you can look at this tanka right behind me. Just see how extraordinarily beautiful she is. And that she is appearing in this subtle form. She's appearing in this light body, in a body of green light. It's so powerful. We can really see it, even though it's not a physical form. It's a subtle body of light of this amazing, wise, compassionate, and free female Buddha, Tara. And then just imagine all the 21 emanations kind of in the space behind her and around her. And this other tanka gives you kind of an image that you could use to imagine that all the emanations are here. They're all seated on their own lotus thrones, and they're all appearing in their various colors and their powers. And then here, this is so important. This is where we're going to call on our mentors, our guardians, our guides, our teachers, the beings from any tradition that has really meant a lot to you. You could say it's even why you're here now, whether they're from a different tradition or not. But call on them, think of them specifically and how they've helped you and what you may have learned from them. And along with them, you're going to call on the sacred texts. We could say the Dharma. We've got Tara. Now we're having the lineage teachers and the teachers and the teachings. And again, these can be sacred wisdom texts from any tradition that you feel connected to. They can be oral, they can be written, can be poetry, music, art, things that have really opened your heart and helped you along the path of awakening and really supported you. And then we think of our Sangha. This is one Sangha. All of us belong to other communities. I'm sure of that. And we belong to these communities of practitioners all over the world. Our folks in Switzerland now, but the practitioners all over the world. And not only that, the people who have practiced for hundreds and hundreds of years, and that includes the lineage teachers. Without those teachers and without those practitioners having done this for the last 1400 years, we wouldn't have it. So we are calling on this awakened Buddha consciousness of Tara, the Dharma texts, the teachings, the teachers, the lineage teachers, and our communities and our ancestors. And here it's very important that you designate only your wise, helpful, compassionate ancestors that are interested in helping you. No others are invited. And we also remember the earth as a source of refuge. And we remember also silence and our own already awakened consciousness that's within us. We can take refuge in that too. So we're taking refuge in all of these beings. And not only that, we're going to invite our friends and loved ones and supporters to come and be with us. You can imagine them surrounding you, and then they're surrounded by their friends and loved ones and supporters, and on and on and on, till really, we have really invited an infinite number of beings to participate in this practice and benefit from it. And so we're both taking refuge in this refuge field, but we're also taking refuge for all these beings, and with all these beings, we are going for refuge. And really let yourself feel that the support of that, because you can also do that any time of day. And then we're going to ask that through the power of giving and the other perfections, that we could wake up 100%, that we could fully wake up in order to be of benefit both to ourselves but to all living beings. And we really pray that all beings could have happiness and the causes of happiness, and that's that tutari again, that particular happiness. That we would ask that all beings would be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow, that all beings could come to realize we actually cannot be separated from the sacred happiness, which is sorrowless, and that we might live in equanimity without too much attachment or too much aversion, and live believing in the equality of all that lives. Om Sobhava Shuddha Sarva Dharma Sobhava Shuddha Ham. And so now, with all that in the background, we're now going to invite red hum sounding Tara to come into the foreground. And she is going to appear in her red subtle body of light. And she's got this somewhat wrathful expression. Her right hand is open in the gesture of supreme giving, means she gives you everything, including enlightenment. And she holds this vase which contains the power to enchant others. And of course, her left hand is at her heart in the gesture of refuge, which is so beautiful. And she's just there in all her beauty and glory. And her top three chakras are adorned with the syllables Om Aham, the white Om in her crown chakra, the red Ah in her throat chakra, the blue Hum in her heart chakra. Again, if you don't do Sanskrit or Tibetan, you can visualize that in English or just think it. And then to imagine that this blue syllable hum begins to radiate this intense ray of blue light into the realms of the wisdom beings and the initiatory deities, and invites them to come here. Ahei Zaham Bamho. And this is one of my favorite lines from this ancient sadhana practice. It says, because they promised to come when we call, and we remind them of that, they do come. So all the wisdom beings and initiatory deities come here. So what that really means is all these energies, these enlightened energies of all the Taras come in and fill up the whole mandala, and then all the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and the Dakinis, all these awakened ones also come into this space. And you can try to really feel that as they come in. Ahei Zaham Bamho. We're just really inviting them and they're coming. And then we ask the awakened ones for purification. Om Sarwa Tathagata Abhishit Samam. So what we imagine now are these white dakinis, these goddess-like feminine figures that are skygoers. They can be in one place to the next instantaneously. And just imagine that each one of them is holding a white vase and that one of them is pouring this amazing nectar into your open crown chakra. It's really like liquid light. I think that's why they use the word nectar. And just imagine this is pouring through you and that any kind of glommy, sticky, negative energy that might be left over from the week or the month or the year or since you were born, whatever. Imagine that this incredible light is pouring through you in every way you exist, your emotional body, subtle body, physical body, vast, even space body, that is just pouring through you. And as it does, all that kind of negative, sticky stuff is leaving your body as it pours out through the lower doors. And, take a moment to see if you can sense that. Like if you were standing, I don't know if any of you have been to Niagara Falls, you can actually go get kind of just underneath one of those falls so you feel it, but it's not pounding down on you. It's sort of like that, this light liquid just pouring through you. And it's a wonderful opportunity. See if you can sense that. And maybe take a deep breath and let go. And then we imagine that one of the dakinis pours the same nectar into the open crown chakra of red hum-sounding Tara. This one drop overflows and forms the Buddha Amitabha just above her head. His name means light without ceasing. And so there he is in a subtle body of red light, just pouring out light and blessings into this practice space, into the universe. And so here's an opportunity for us to make offerings, really personal offerings to Tara. It's important to remember that we can offer Tara everything and anything, no matter how mundane or perfect or wonderful or sublime or yucky, whatever it is, we can offer her everything. And so it's pretty great to take a moment to specifically think, what do you want to offer Tara in this form? Maybe it's a piece of work you just completed. Maybe it's something you're hoping to do. Maybe it's something you feel terrible about, something you want help with or something you got help with, doesn't matter. Whatever it is that you want to offer her. And just imagine that she is delighted by this. Mother Mira has this wonderful saying. She says, it doesn't matter what you offer, it matters that you offer it. And she says, offer everything to the divine. I think that's what she means. So, just imagine that Tara is actually delighted that you're going to offer her all this. And being the great, amazing female alchemist that she is, she can transform anything we offer her into a blessing, into a wisdom blessing. Even maybe helping us get some insight into what is that thing we're offering her. And so she just pours these wisdom blessings over our head. We just can take them in. And maybe even we'll have the opportunity to pass that blessing on to somebody else. Who knows, in an hour or tomorrow. Om Benza Amrita Kundali Hana Hana Humpe Om Sabawashita Saradharma Sabawashidoha. So here's where we do the more traditional offerings. And before we do that, we imagine this wrathful deity, Amrita Kundali. He's emerging from our heart, and he is just gobbling up all the obstacles to our practice. You know, it's like, I know I've told you all this before. Years ago, one of my folks said, oh, he's like the Pac-Man of the practice. So he just gobbles up all the obstacles. So you can imagine you're just tossing all your obstacles out to him, and he's also delighted to do this job. So at each step in this sadhana, we have more and more and more chances to let go of things. So here's a chance to let go. And if you can think of an obstacle, just toss it out there. And imagine him doing that. And then he dissolves back into our heart chakra where he remains as a protector. And we just take one more moment. We go back to that image of space, either as something we just think about, feel, or see. And imagine that you can actually connect with the syllable Om, the syllable of enlightened consciousness that's vibrating through space and matter all the time, whether we can actually hear it or not. Om is the closest approximation to that sound that we can hear. But just imagine the sound and the resonance of enlightened consciousness is vibrating through the entire universe. And as it's doing that, it's creating these enormous and beautiful jeweled vessels. And each one of those has an Om inside of it. And then from these vessels begin to pour these offering substances. I mean, you can really enjoy this. Just imagine to your heart's content flowers and incense and music and candles and food. You know, it's like these are the traditional offering substances. And they're creating a banquet for Tara and all the enlightened beings, all the beings who have come. And so we just imagine these offering substances pouring out, clear, unhindered, and unending. Om Aham, Om Aham, Om Aham. Om Aryatara, Sapariwara, Argam, Pajam, Puspe, Dupe, Alake, Ganje, Navaje, Shabda, Pratitya, Soha. And so let's see that the praise is back in the chat box again. There it is. So I know we're all muted, but if you can, just say the praise out loud with me. I praise the one who fills the world of desire, the 10 directions and space with the mantra Tutari and the syllable hum, the wisdom syllable hum, who trampling the 7 worlds with her feet has the power to summon them all. And so what we're going to visualize, and some of us are better at visualizing than others, you can really just sense this or feel it or think it, or you might be able to visualize it, that from her heart and also from all these mantras in the vase in her hand, that this red light is streaming out and it enchants and overpowers the others. So, you know, use your imagination, you know, send it to Congress, send it anywhere you want it, you know, just that people would feel this amazing energy and would be so attracted to it that it would open their hearts maybe to do good things for everybody. But I think here you can use your own imagination. And I also really want to encourage you, as I said at the beginning, imagine that this light is streaming out not only into the seen world, but the unseen world. You can send it anywhere on the planet. Also imagine you can send it into the unseen worlds to send this incredible, powerful energy that causes people to actually want to do the right thing. And so I will say again, you know, don't worry about getting the mantra perfectly. We're going to say it 108 times, and then we're going to rest in silence for a while before we come back. I encourage you to try it. It's really pretty great because when you say it, you can feel the vibration inside and outside yourself. It's also wonderful just to say it inside yourself, and it's also wonderful just to listen to it. So do whatever is actually going to help you connect with it the most. Be kind to yourself. Okay, here we go. Om Tare Tu Tare Turi Amaka Arkashaya Risoha. 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 Om Tari Tutari Alaka 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 Arkashaya Risoha. Tari Tutari Alaka Arkashaya Risoha. Om 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 Tari Tutari Alaka Arkashaya Risoha. So I want to invite you all to really focus on this red Tara that's right here in front of us and all the support around her and around us. And just see her in all this brilliant light. And as you're looking at her, check in with yourself, like check in with your body. You know, how are you feeling? Like, see what are the sensations that you can experience. And sometimes we can name those sensations and sometimes we can't. But I invite you to really see what you can sense about how your whole self is responding to being in this energy. Let's check in. This really compassionate but kind of fierce Tara, who's offering us a very particular kind of protection so that we can stay grounded in love for ourselves and then love for others. Just see how you're feeling. And I will say that what I sensed in that quiet period, and I also sensed it as I was saying the mantras, a sense of tenderness. It was kind of like kind of tenderness towards the obstacles. You know, especially like we can think of our own internal obstacles, but we know other people have the same thing. It's like, what are those defenses? And sometimes you can tell a defense, like I said, I lose my sense of humor. You can be irritable, or all of a sudden you're jealous of somebody, or all of a sudden you're judging somebody, or you're judging yourself. You know, what's behind those obstacles to our open-heartedness? And this idea that Tara, this light of Tara, this mantra, is reaching that indirectly. You know, the image that came to me is like really old rocks that have cracks in them. This gets back to Leonard Cohen's poem, like water that can kind of seep into those cracks and get past those defenses and get into that soft place where we can really contain whatever we're feeling in a really compassionate way. And that we can tend to ourselves and then tend to the situation we're in and tend to the other people that we are going to come in contact with. So it's often the case for me when I'm doing a practice of Tara that involves some of the wrathful aspects, that for me, often this incredible tenderness arises. And that always surprises me. It's like, where's the fire anyway? So I want you all to, just be with yourself, kind of collect up these feelings and sensations, your experience. And now we're going to begin this process of dissolving this whole mandala and dedicating the practice. And so first we see red Tara dissolving, receding, not dissolving, but receding back into her place in the mandala. And that would be on our left-hand side of Tara. And then we take one look again at the mandala. We look at all the beings that we've invited to come and be with us. And we ask all those beings to please return to whatever realms they came from. And we thank them for coming. We offer them our most intense gratitude for coming. And then we ask them to now leave and go back to the realms from which they came. Just imagine that happening, all the beings leaving. And then we just see this entire mandala of Tara dissolving into light, and that light just spreading through the whole universe like an amazing fireworks display. And as it goes out into the whole universe, it also comes into us. It comes into our hearts, and it really illuminates the heart of Tara that is already inside of us, makes it brighter and more palpable. And now we're left again with, ourselves and our sense of Tara within and the Sangha without and space. And so in that space, we dedicate this practice. We ask that whatever benefit, whatever healing, whatever positive potential has been generated by our doing this practice together. There's several things here. You can one idea is to imagine it's only a drop in an ocean of all the practices that are being done all the time. It's just a drop in this vast ocean of beneficial practices. And at the same time, we can imagine that this practice is extremely powerful and beneficial. And so we dedicate it. We dedicate it to the healing and awakening of all beings everywhere, with absolutely no exceptions. And we give thanks. So I want to tell you all a fairy tale. It's short, kind of short, but it really exemplifies the star practice. But before I do that, I want to give a shout out again to Diana and also to Mary Ganzon, who has joined us. Mary, can you wave? And Karen Nelson, where's Karen? Wherever she is. This is the triple goddess of the tech world that helped get all this stuff into the chat box. And I just want to bow to them and thank them. I want you all to know that they're here with us. And that poem did make it into the chat box. You can scroll back up. And Mary, thank you for putting some prayers into the chat box. And I just want to say, yeah, that's one thing I want to remember to do is to put prayers. I think I got so concerned about getting all these other things in the chat box, but I really don't. I do want to remember to put the people that we want to remember, we want for prayers of healing into our circle. So here is this fairy tale. And then I hope some of you might be collecting up some thoughts of things you would be willing to share with us before we sign off. So this is the tale of the crescent moon bear. So there's this one, it's a Japanese tale. This woman, her husband was a warrior. He was away at war forever and ever and ever. And he came home and she made all this wonderful food and fixed up the house and all this stuff. And he would not come in the house. He would not come in the house. And so she went to a healer and she said, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And the healer said, I can help you. I can make a potion. It will help you, but you've got to go get a hair from the heart at the throat of the crescent moon bear. I mean, at the crescent at the throat of the crescent moon bear. So this woman, you forgive me if I don't get this perfectly. Here's another nod to imperfection. She goes trekking up this mountain. Just imagine how difficult this was. Unbelievably difficult to get to the top of this mountain. And she gets to the cave of the crescent moon bear and she hears this fierce growl. And this is not a small bear. And she's terrified. And so she starts making food and putting it outside the cave entrance. And, you know, the bear, she hides and the bear comes and gets the food. And she does it again and again and again. And finally, the bear comes out and basically says, okay, what do you want? And she says, I need one of the hairs from the crescent at your throat. And the bear pulls out this one hair. And I think the story goes, lets out quite a loud sound. She gets the hair and she goes flying back down the mountain with this precious hair. And she gives it to the healer who's got the cauldron and the fire and everything going. She hands it to the healer and the healer throws it into the fire. And the woman said, what are you doing? And she said, if you will treat your husband the way you treated the crescent moon bear, he will come into the house. So I think I have not thought about this fairy tale. I think you can find it in one of Clarissa Pinkola Estes' books or tapes or whatever. Haven't thought about it in years. And it just came to me while we were in this silence. I think is a perfect example of this Tara. You know, you just gradually offer to the person whose own obstacles are so deep that they can't accept anything, a teaching or a gesture or whatever, right? That this business of indirectness can be so powerful and it can be so loving, and requires so much patience. And so, you know, to think of, I mean, I do think a lot of times of my own defenses. Like if I'm really irritated and I'm feeling petty, all those things I said, I just know I've shut down for some reason, but I don't know why. And I'm not going to be able to get to it directly. I can't sit down and do an inquisition with myself. But if I do Tara practice or, you know, go sit for an hour with the tulip poplar in my backyard or something and calm down, it comes to me. It's that indirectness. Okay. So I just wanted to say that. And I want to know if anybody is willing to share something with us. And if you are, unmute yourself and jump in there.
I will share something.
Okay.
Rachel, can you
Shayla?
hear me?
Yes, Shayla, thank you.
I was very involved in a training for the last few months that happened on this day. And so I couldn't be here. And I found that very difficult to miss these sessions because they've become very, very, very precious to me. And I just want to say, Rachel, that there is some kind of magic in the way that Tara comes through you. That is, for me, there are so many dimensions to it. The accessibility, the ordinariness. It feels to me in a way like I work a lot in the field of collective trauma.
Oh, wow.
And the resources that we can access are so incredibly important.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like you're, through your own heart and your own life force, you're making Tara so accessible. You know, in a way that it feels like that's what this moment in our collective struggle is. You said that, you feel that all the time. But I am just so grateful for the particular way that she comes through you. It's incredibly inspiring.
Well, thank you for saying that, because, I have my own complexes. I used to say to my editor, Jennifer Brown, it sounds true all the time, I'm not a geshe. And she would say, I know. We don't want a geshe. If we wanted a geshe, we could get one, believe me. Anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. So
that's it.
But it's quite intense and deep tradition that, what one could know is infinite. And what one could say to oneself that one doesn't know is also infinite. So thank you for that. That means a lot. It's very touching. And I really do appreciate it. And I did have it in my mind. I think some of you probably practice with Lama Rod Owens, and I want to say, if there's a continuum where you have, my teachers say Lodrö Rinpoche, who really is deeply non-traditional in the depths, or else he wouldn't be doing all the stuff he does. But on the outside, he looks like about as traditional as a Tibetan teacher can get. And then you have kind of Lama Rod over here at the other end, and you got me somewhere in the middle. So anyway, thank you, Shayla. I appreciate that a lot. I really do. So who else? I saw somebody waving a hand. Trisha?
Well, I was having this big experience from what you did. I totally agree with Shayla. I've been following you now for a while and listening over and over again to these teachings that you give. And I did the initiation, and all of it was very powerful. I was having a lot of powerful imaginings. And then at the very end, when you said, if anybody wants to share what's been going on, I looked up and there was a coyote walking about 2 feet in front of my cabin. So I just had to jump up and went around and followed and watched him, and he just encircled the cabin. And I thought, okay, okay, there's that sense of humor. There's Rachel's sense of humor that I want so much to enliven me more and to bring that out more, because I kept hearing that during the whole meditation. I just kept hearing that that's the part of me that gets lost when I get all wooden, shut down. I had a big, huge emotional breakdown yesterday and immediately went into thinking, I thought I was getting better. Why am I having another emotional breakdown? I don't believe in anything. I kept just chanting it and thinking, see, that doesn't work. And then, so in the middle of the night, I watched an Audrey Hepburn movie, and that helped. And I thought, okay, well, so anyway, Coyote, he just reminds me to, kind of lighten up, and I don't always have to process everything. And anyway, it's just really magical ending to do that.
Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. And those are such great examples of everything. And we have to remember the coyote when we get to Tara number 10, the laughing Tara. And okay, now here's something else I meant to show you all. Let me see if I can. Okay, can you see that?
Uh-huh.
So this is Tara. This is, I'm going to show you the hand. This is a very unusual statue of Tara, but it is Tara. I call that the "Don't mess with me" Tara. Here's the hand. Anyway, I really think of her. I love this dearly. I think of her in the connection with this Tara. Anyway, so how about one more person before we sign off for the evening?
Hi, I can share.
Okay, great.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you. I started reading your book today and just out of curiosity looked at your website and saw this event, and I felt like it was very kismet. I've been seeking Sangha with women. I haven't had that before in my practice, so I feel like this is such a blessing, and thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's great. It's great to have the women, and it's great to have the men. I see them. You're outnumbered, guys.
Sorry, I didn't. I
I'm
should
glad
say
you're
the
not
feminine.
discouraged by that. No, I know it's really wonderful to have all this good feminine energy in both the men and the women. Thank you, Claire. So I just want to say thank you all for your showing up. Thank you for your practice. Yeah, it's badly needed in the world right now. It really, really is. I mean, we need it, for ourselves, but I think we each have a lot to offer to the world. So the recordings will be on my website. If I can get really not lazy and get my web person who helps me, maybe I can put some of these poems up on the website too. And if anybody has a question that you want to ask me directly, you can also go to the website and use that contact form and just write to me. And I am really, really glad to be practicing with you all. Yeah. So, yeah. See you all next month.
Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rachel.
Bye.